Go. Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Felipe Velez. Soy licenciado en Derecho, soy maestro en Derecho Constitucional y Amparo y tengo un posgrado en Derecho de las Tecnologías de la Información y Comunicación por el CONACYT. Bueno, pues bienvenido a Cómo empezar tu empresa en los Estados Unidos. Lo más importante al momento de emprender, al momento de iniciar una nueva vida en los Estados Unidos, es por dónde empezar, con quién voy a descansar mi proyecto, mi iniciativa y mi modelo de negocio. Bueno, para eso estamos nosotros, aquí en Z Academy, tenemos una empresa experta. Y hoy nos acompaña Albert Hughes. Albert Hughes III, o el tercero, es nativo del sur de California y ha ido a la escuela de Derecho de Cornell, a la Universidad de Cornell University. Entonces, Albert tiene experiencia como abogado civilista, abogado litigante en corporativo y sobre todo se ha encargado de desarrollar estrategias tácticas para el litigio estratégico en materia de escisión y fusión de empresas. También se encarga de demandas civiles por daño moral en contra de personas morales o incluso de entes gubernamentales. Entonces, en materia de litigio estratégico es la mejor persona a la cual acudir en California. Él es licenciado aquí por la barra estatal de California, pero también gracias a esta fusión que tenemos ahora estamos litigando en Las Vegas. Entonces tenemos sede tanto en Las Vegas, en Nevada, como aquí en California. Entonces su servidor está aquí en San Francisco, California. Y lo que vamos a hacer es que tu negocio vaya acompañado de los mejores expertos. Entonces, ¿cómo empezar una startup? ¿De dónde empieza esto de estar una startup? Bueno, entonces, por favor, sigue aquí los subtítulos y en los subtítulos irá siguiendo. Él habla inglés, entonces obviamente eh, lo que tú vayas a decir lo vamos a ir traduciendo tal cual lo vayas diciendo. Entonces, no te preocupes si no sabes inglés, para eso va a haber clases. A partir de hoy va a haber clases nocturnas para emprendedores, para expertos en tecnologías y sobre todo para abogados. Entonces, vamos a dar los tips de cómo ser abogado aquí en los Estados Unidos, de cómo emprender en los Estados Unidos, de cómo poner tu empresa y sobre todo cómo empezar una nueva vida aquí en los Estados Unidos. Entonces, hoy es tu oportunidad. Solamente son 15 minutos. Entonces, en estos 15 minutos, por favor, tómate el tiempo de ver todo el video y deja tus preguntas. Nosotros la próxima semana, en la próxima sesión, las atenderemos y con gusto te daremos un lugar reservado en tu idea de negocio. Muy bien, entonces, ¿qué es lo difícil? ¿Hacia dónde vamos? Bueno, eso es lo principal. ¿Cómo emprender en los Estados Unidos? Bueno, primero, ¿qué tipo de compañía vas a tener? Entonces, aquí Albert nos va a decir qué tipo de compañía vas a tener y sobre todo, por qué y cuáles son los beneficios fiscales, que es lo más importante, al momento de poner tu startup, al momento de iniciar esa idea de negocio como experto en tecnologías. Eres un experto en ciberseguridad, eres un experto en data science y ahora ¿la quieres desarrollar aquí en Estados Unidos? ¿Quieres venir aquí a Silicon Valley? Vas a tener que aprender cuál es la mejor estructura para tu proyecto. No todos los proyectos de negocio son lo mismo. Habrá algunas ventajas y otras desventajas. Entonces, sin más por el momento, le doy la palabra a Albert Hughes. Hi, Albert. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. Well, I was just telling our guests over here who you are, where you come from, and especially how to start a business in the US. So sometimes it's very difficult to understand all the outlines of what is the best ways, what is the best advocate way to get your business right in shape so you can make some profit here in the US. Or if you have a company abroad, like in Mexico, and you want to have HQ, a headquarter here in Silicon Valley, well, sometimes it's very difficult to understand, what are the liabilities, what is the extent of having a company here in the US. So please guide us in very few baby steps of what are the difference between a sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability company, corporation, and cooperative kind of business. I believe those are the kind of businesses, but it's you that are going to explain to us how easy is this and how we're going to take it. So the floor is yours and the mic is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I'm honored to be able to teach you guys. So, in the United States, There are these sorts of businesses, as you see on this slide. Yeah, the sole proprietorship, the partnership, the limited liability company, and the corporation or cooperative. Um, each of these businesses have their own benefits and drawbacks. Um, hit the next slide, please. Right. Under the sole proprietorship, this is, as you see, a business that's owned and run by one person. While you may have employees, the sole proprietorship is only owned by the single person. Now, because the business is owned and run by the single person, the taxes for the sole proprietorship are direct upon the owner. So it's what's called a pass-through entity. And so when you file taxes in the United States, you file your business benefits or your what you earned that year as your personal taxes. Now, that's on the tax side. With respect to your debts, your losses, your liabilities, that's also the responsibility of the owner. So in the event that, let's say a lawsuit occurs, it may be directed to the owner itself instead of at the business. So that's one specific drawback of the sole proprietorship. One of the benefits is that you don't have to share any of the profits with anyone else. You might pay your employees, but you reap the rest of the profits. So under the sole proprietorship, you have the possibility of taking the whole pie in terms of profits, but you also have the drawback of taking the whole pie when it comes to a lawsuit. Next slide, please. One after should be partnership. All right, now we go to a partnership. So a partnership is a business that's owned by two or more people. In order to create a partnership, you don't actually have to do anything other than you and a person agree to share the profits and the liabilities. Now, this could be a handshake deal or you and your best friend. But what is best for partnerships is that you actually create a contract between you two. That's where a person like me comes in. I can create a contract for you, and it sets forth what are the expectations between you two. So when you have a partnership, you and your partner can enter into contracts that will encumber the business. So let's say that you and a partner have a business that sells widgets or pies. I used pies earlier. So you and your partner have a business that sells pies. You and your partner, or your partner decides, hey, we need to upgrade the machinery, and they sign a contract to upgrade the machinery, but you don't agree with that. Now, your partner, when they signed onto that contract, now that requires the partnership to be liable for that contract, meaning you have to pay for the machines, even if you didn't agree upon it. Now, if you two have a contract in place, that may limit that liability so that you don't have to pay for that machinery in the event that you two didn't agree upon it in the first place. So a partnership, while is typically great, it is very important to have a contract between you two so that it's clear as to what sorts of powers each of you has within that partnership. And in it, again, in this partnership, the two partners share the profits as well as the liabilities. Next slide, please. Okay. For many of you, you might be interested in what's called a corporation. One of the types of a corporation is what's called a limited liability corporation. This limited liability corporation is somewhat, as you see, a cross between a corporation and a partnership. LLCs, or short for limited liability company, they offer limited liability protection. so that owners aren't personally responsible for the business debts and the liabilities. So as we said with the sole proprietorship and the partnership, LLCs offer you protection in the event of a lawsuit. So let's say you have a business like you drive trucks and you transport things. And unfortunately, sometimes trucks get into car accidents. And those could be very large lawsuits in the United States. It's very easy for those to be million-dollar lawsuits. So it's of the benefit for the company to have the structure in place called the limited liability company, so that when they're slapped with a million-dollar lawsuit, their homes, the partners or the owner's homes aren't taken away. And the business itself has the liability for the lawsuit. In addition to that, it's also important to have insurance in place so that for any lawsuits, your insurance will cover that. And that's something that we could be able to assist you with in terms of knowing what's best for your company in terms of insurance or structure, whether that be the sole proprietorship, the partnership, or what you see here as the limited liability company. There's also tax benefits for each of these. The LLC uses a pass-through taxation, so each partner reports the profits on their personal tax return instead of for the business itself. Next slide, please. And now we're here at the corporation. As explained in the slide before, the LLC is somewhat a type of corporation. Here, now we're showing you just corporation. Many businesses out there are just, they're called a corporation or a C Corp. This is a standalone legal entity that's separate from its owners. So what that means is the owners, while they own the company itself, the corporation is in the United States considered its own person or its own entity. So in the event of a lawsuit, this is what it all comes back to. In the event of a lawsuit, the lawsuit is directed at the corporation itself and not the owners, unless the owners were the ones who were at fault for the lawsuit. And so sometimes what happens is the owners are sued in addition to the corporation. I know I'm giving a lot of information at you, so please, I understand you might have questions, and at our next session, we'll be able to answer a lot of those questions. But here, again, I revert back to the corporation. And so the corporation itself, as I said, they're called separate legal entities, and the shareholders are basically the investors, and they invest in the company, and in return, they receive stock from the corporations. So when you create your corporation, you might have, let's say, 1,000 shares of stock, and you want to value your business at, let's say, $1,000. So you create 1,000 shares of stock, and so a person invests $1, they get one stock. Now, there may be different types of stocks. So you might have voting power with some stocks, or you might just be like an angel investor. And so whoever has stock is unable to make business decisions. And it's important that you decide what sorts of stock when you give out to investors, because it's going to have an impact as to how you run your business. So if you have a large corporation, let's say like Coca-Cola, and they have millions of stocks out there, each of those shareholders many of those shareholders have the ability to vote on directives for Coca-Cola. whether they want to invest in something or create a new product, or there's all sorts of things that are voted upon by shareholders. And so it's important to really understand your corporate structure and create create the structure that sets in place what the owners are to do, what the board members are to do, and what the shareholders have the ability to do in terms of voting power. Corporations, again, they have their benefits and their drawbacks like any other business structure that we showed today. Next slide, please. As you see in this slide, corporations are required to follow the internal and external corporate formalities and obligations, such as adopting bylaws, what I mentioned earlier, issuing stock, holding shareholder and director meetings, and maintaining a registered agent and a registered office, filing annual reports, and paying annual fees. Each of these requirements are very important because in order to uphold the corporate formality, you need to follow through with all of these things. If you don't, then there becomes a possibility that whoever decides to sue the business may directly sue the owners, because they might argue that the corporation is not a real corporation and is in fact fake. So what's important when you guys are deciding to create a business is to follow the corporate formalities. And in order to do so, please reach out to us so that we're able to assist you with the formation of the corporation, one formation that is beneficial for you, and so that you understand the benefits and the drawbacks, but also specific to your situation, because there's all sorts of businesses. If there's only two of you that are interested in forming a business together, then what may be best for you is to form a partnership. Or what may be better is for you to form a limited liability corporation, or as you see here, a C corporation. Next slide, please. The C corporation, as I've mentioned a couple of times, is the standard or default corporation under the IRS. Next slide, please. LLCs, as we mentioned earlier, is the basically secondary type of corporation after you file for a business formation. Then you identify with the IRS that you want it to be called an LLC. Next slide, please. The filing of documents. One of the important documents is called the Articles of Incorporation, or it might also be called the Certificate of Incorporation. And that's the document which you identify the purpose of the business, the number of stock that you're going to create, as well as other obligations or directives about your business. This Articles of Incorporation is created, your business has it, but it's also filed with the IRS. Next slide, please. And the other type of corporation is what's called an S corporation. The S corporation itself has also tax benefits, and there are also some drawbacks, but it depends upon the type of business you run, the amount of money you're expecting to make. And there are a few different loopholes here in terms of taxes. So again, please do reach out to us so that we could identify what sort of business is best for you, how to identify what sort of taxes or tax benefits you're looking for. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I believe I've covered these in my previous discussion. Mhm. I believe I covered it all.
Well, Albert, thank you for your time. Remember to reach out to Albert. We're going to be waiting for your QAs. So the best important thing is not to remain in silence. Remember to reach out to us, okay? You know, sometimes you try to do things yourself. We have many websites around, like for example, freebies, or you know, all these websites for freelancers, and they say that they can get your company for a few bucks, but they don't have the formality or the knowledge of a practice attorney like Albert. So if you want to reach out to us in the next session, we're going to see what are the types of corporations, how can we really navigate through all the documentation, all the benefits with the IRS, and specifically with your own employees, how to become part of it. So the best thing is to reach out. So remember to have everything in you know, on a very tight schedule, because at the end we're only going to give you 15 minutes for free. Then you will have to pay for a consultation, and you will have to go through all the best packet. So we're gonna do a specific project for you. Remember, this is a one-to-one a consultation. Albert is going to be with you. I'm gonna be with you if you don't speak English as your first language. So I'm gonna be interpreting that. You know, we're gonna have this idea of the three of us. You know, the three together, so we can maintain your dreams in a best American possible way. So thank you, Albert, for your time. I'll see you next Saturday, and we hope to have at least 1,000 likes next time. So be with us.